Welcome to Chemo Gemo. Today I'm very excited, we are very excited about sharing with you a recipe that we created ourselves. Mixing the Georgian flavors, Georgian herbs with Italian flour, Italian technique. The recipe is going to be called Tagliatelle alla Georgiana. Tagliatelle, a form, a type of Italian pasta that's made with Georgian herbs, Georgian common herbs that are used.
So what was the inspiration for this dish?
For this dish, well, taking the most classic Georgian kind of food, right, Chashushuli, which we call Chashushuli or OSTRI, and then giving it something that it can be enjoyed with as a condiment. Because usually in Georgian culture and tradition, Chashushuli is given just as a condiment, as a sauce, and you usually dip bread with it. What we wanted to do, what we thought about, was to have pasta in place of bread and flavor it with Georgian herbs. So in Georgian, the name is called Chashushuli. In slang, we call it OSTRI.
So do you believe in fusion of different cuisines, such as Georgian and Italian?
Georgian and Italian are both very antique cultures. We're very set. Our mindset are very fixed. We think that ours is the best, that, you know, this is the way that it has to be made, because this is the way our grandmother taught us, that's the way she passed it down. But I think that in the case of Georgian and Italian food, because both cultures and cuisines are complementary to each other, I think that they really make harmony in the kitchen. And after all, most classic recipes are inspired by mistakes and by some kind of fusion. With that, let's start with our pasta. So this is our flour. That I like to use is Italian flour again. Again, mixing the products, the flavors, and tastes. Molino Grassi is this flour, this particular flour that I'm using.
What type of flour?
It's a fine flour, type 00 flour. So it's very fine flour. We're going to make a fountain. Now, what are the ingredients that we're going to use? So we're going to need flour. So eggs are used for this pasta dough. Okay, 200 grams of flour and 2 eggs. Usually 1 egg per every 100 grams of flour. 100 grams is an individual portion. What we're going to make, what we're going to add to kick this recipe up a little bit, to kick it up a notch, is going to be some of the Georgian herbs. This is Georgian saffron, okay? Also yellow marigold. Similar to Italian or Spanish saffron, but it's Georgian, okay? And it's already ground. So we're going to add just a little bit to give it some color and some taste, some Georgian taste. We're going to add some chmeli kinzi, which is coriander, ground coriander, just a little bit. So Chashushuli in Georgian means fenugreek. It's a special herb, special spice, ground, that we use. And some chmeli suneli. Another mix of herbs with some of these combined together. I'm going to add a little bit more color, so I want some more saffron, Georgian saffron. No, zaprana. Zaprana we call it. Now some olive oil, please. Thank you. Some salt. Because just like Emeril Lagasse says, I've never heard of any flour or any ingredient that comes seasoned by itself. You have to season every layer of ingredients.
Special part about this recipe is the color, which makes saffron.
So it's going to be a very Georgian pasta. If ever there was a fusion between Georgian and Italian cuisine, this recipe is it. And we're premiering it today. Now a little bit about the other ingredients. Okay, so this pasta is going to have a condiment. Okay, the sauce that it's going to come with is going to be a typical Georgian sauce with some meat, beef, rib steak that I've cut into small cubes, some tomato sauce, some chopped onions, some garlic, crushed red pepper, and then fresh coriander or fresh cilantro at the very end to garnish it and give it that Georgian flavor. And very surprisingly, goes very well with this Italian dish.
So you recommend using the pasta with the eggs inside, with this sauce, this kind of meat sauce?
Yes, it's possible to actually make the pasta without the eggs too for the sauce. In fact, in Georgia, Georgian types of pasta, like a ravioli, like a khinkali, usually we don't use egg. Italians do, but then they have so many different variations of pasta. They have those where they use eggs, those where they don't also. But I'm going to try to use this Italian technique and just flavor it. Georgian herbs. Okay, that's good. Now we don't need this. Now I'm going to start working with my hands.
How long do you rest this pasta dough?
How long do you rest it? Well, the longer the better, because the dough has to develop its gluten, become elastic. It's going to be easier to roll out with a rolling pin. An hour, half an hour to an hour.
When do you know that it's really ready?
So, yeah, so the pasta, the egg dough, can be a little bit softer, okay, than the pasta dough that doesn't use any eggs. The Georgian pastas that we use that don't have eggs, they're a little bit harder, okay? And that's why they also take longer to cook. The egg pastas usually take 2 or 3 minutes. Fresh, homemade pasta. Now, one of the things that really kept me from baking a long time ago, one of the reasons why I used to make many mistakes in the beginning was I was afraid when this flour when my fingers would get stuck in flour, I didn't know what to do. So what are some ways that you can get rid of it? You guys know, I hope. Or I can tell you. So just add some more flour on your hands, some oil, or some salt. Those 3 ingredients allow you to continue working on the dough. Let the dough be a little bit more soft to begin with. If it's too dry right away, then it's much more difficult to make it work. Now, how do you work the dough? You stretch it out, let the gluten develop naturally, top to bottom, then you rotate. Top to bottom, rotate. You want to not rush. You want to make sure that you don't incorporate all the flour together. Now, a little bit about the sauce. Again, the sauce is from scratch, all homemade. Peeled tomatoes, boil them a little bit, put them in hot water, take the skin off, and then just pass it through a sifter. Strain it, and you have strained tomato sauce with garlic, some salt. It's almost there. It's a little bit too soft. See, when you press down, it should recoil, right? Which it does. It kind of springs back at you. But it's a little too soft. For that, you really need to feel that, the right consistency. If it's too soft, you can compensate for that by adding a little bit, sprinkling more flour when you roll out the pasta. Now, if it's too hard right now, then you're not going to need more flour later. Okay, great. So at this point, it's done. So we're going to let it rest now. Cover it up so that it doesn't form a dry skin over it. And we're going to let it rest. Okay? Meantime, we're going to start working on our sauce. Okay, we're going to add some oil, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. We're going to start working on the sauce. We're going to add our meat. There's the sizzle. That's the sizzle you should hear. It's very important, again, the temperature. No ingredient ever comes seasoned. So season using a layered approach. Season every layer, just a little bit. You don't have to over-season it. You want to keep the food natural as possible, with just a little hint of the flavor that you want to be highlighted, to dominate. In this case, it's khmeli suneli or utschosuneli or tagliatelle, which is Georgian saffron, or coriander, ground coriander. I'm going to wait for it to brown a little bit. Let's add some onions. I love that sound of that sizzle. That means we're cooking at the right temperature. That's what that means to me. Add some salt. Add some garlic. Now with garlic, usually the Georgian recipe calls for minced garlic very finely. Not everybody loves garlic, so you can choose to have a more delicate flavor of it that you can take out, or use the whole garlic clove, which is what is done more often worldwide. We're going to add some crushed red pepper. Notice that I'm cooking on one side because I want the meat to brown a little bit more. Maybe a little more herbs, Georgian spices, just a very little, just a pinch. Not too much. Meantime, I think we're ready to stretch out our dough. Okay, we're going to keep our surface flour, also the rolling pin, which I don't like to use much. Whenever I can try to get away with it, I use my hands. But for this type of pasta, which is a quick pasta, quick egg pasta, just flavored with Georgian herbs, I'm actually going to use this rolling pin. I'm going to start stretching it. Our meat is on fire, is on the heat, on the pan, progressing quite well. The longer you let it rest, the more elastic it will be. I only let it rest about 30 minutes today. I advise you guys to let the dough relax for about an hour or so. If you're noticing that it's not elastic enough, right, let it rest. Go back to the meat. Very nice. Has a scent, Georgian scent. One technique is to let one half of the pasta hang down. And then start from here. This will just make things easier. Then look at the other side. Let it hang down over the table, countertop. You don't want it to be too translucent, but you don't want it to be too thick. Should be about 3-4 millimeters. Try to feel that it's even. Its thickness is even everywhere. Yeah, trust your rolling pin, but trust your hands first. And your fingers. Okay, let's go back to the meat. Pretty much brown. Now we're going to add some white wine. White Georgian wine. We're going to let that reduce. It's going to give it a good flavor. Okay, it's getting there. It's almost there. Or a pasta sheet right here. Georgian pasta. Almost done. Gonna let it reduce halfway. Then we're gonna add the tomato sauce. Cover it up. Let it heat for about 10 minutes. Okay, we're gonna add some tomato sauce. Don't want to add it too much. Okay, so I'm going to add it like this, gradually. Add some more salt. And now what you want is you want all the ingredients to be incorporated together. You want that tomato sauce to have the flavor of that meat. You want that tomato sauce to have that taste from some of those Georgian herbs. And that takes a little bit of time. You can't hurry that in 5 minutes. But I would say about 15 minutes should do the trick here. Okay, there we go. That should be good. That should be good. Now, we're going to use a knife, a big knife to cut this with. Notice that it was such consistency that I didn't really have to sprinkle a lot of flour on it. But now, when you fold this over, you don't want it to stick to each other. So just to secure yourself that that doesn't happen, you add some flour. Not too much. We're ready to fold this over. Very easy, very simple. Fold it over like that, just once from the bottom, once from the top. Keeping about the same width. Then one more time. And then the third time. There you go. Cut off the ends. And then just start cutting it into desired thickness for the tagliatelle. Almost done. Needs about 7 minutes, I would say, 7-10 minutes. Pasta needs about 2 minutes. So we're right on schedule.
We're gonna cut the pasta right now?
Yeah. Yes.
So
the tagliatelle.
what's the shape gonna be?
The shape is going to be a tagliatelle. Tagliatelle, which is a common shape, you know, similar to the bolognese, the meat sauce or meat ragu. So it's quite thick and long. There's one. So this takes practice. I just basically eyeball it and try to use consistent motion. I know that you like this kind, right? What you want to do is you want to make sure that it doesn't stick. Which it doesn't, that's perfect.
That's my favorite shape.
Tagliatelle, right? Yes.
Not too
Okay.
thick, not too thin.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be perfect because it's homemade.
Right. And that's the key. Not every shape has to be equal, okay, when it's homemade. That's the whole beauty of it. We have a pasta machine, but there you go. It's a pasta spree. This part. There we go. So there's our tagliatelle. Thick, nice tagliatelle. Georgian tagliatelle. With all the Georgian spices that are going to kick this dish up a little bit to a different level. We're going to prepare our... this is 2 portions, so you can set it aside like this for 2 people, for example. So that it doesn't stick, you can cover it if you have a lot of time until you use it in the sauce. All we're going to have to add at the end is going to be fresh cilantro, fresh coriander. What you need with this is some good Georgian wine or già. Già has another Italian parallel, grappa. And the parallels continue and continue. Follow them on cemogemo.com and Cemogemo YouTube channel. Now we're going to add some salt to the water. You want the salt to be salty, to be flavorful. I don't always use a scale to measure everything. Some things you do just out of habit, right? Taste, your own taste. That's almost ready. Throw in our pasta. This is the magic moment. Okay, you throw in 1 portion. Very decisive moment. 1 portion for me, 1 portion for you. Okay. We're going to use a wooden, yes, thank you. And also we're going to use a wooden spoon right away so it doesn't stick. But you saw the consistency. The consistency was pretty good. Didn't stick at all.
So the fresh pasta, how long should we cook it?
We should cook it probably for about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Usually the dried pasta takes longer.
Yeah, dried pasta or the pasta without any eggs. The egg pasta usually takes only 1 or 2 minutes. So, okay, now let's take a look at this, at our sauce. Okay, the sauce is thickening up. Perfect timing. Now what we're going to do is just going to transfer the pasta over, and that's it. But this is an important technique, because you want all the pasta to absorb the whole sauce. Okay? There we go. Oh, beautiful. Look at the color. Very unique color. It doesn't look like a regular spinach pasta. Doesn't look like a basil pasta. But you can play with it. If you want to choose some of these Georgian spices and herbs in your next time that you make the pasta, what you can do is you can play with how much Georgian saffron you want to use versus how much Georgian coriander you want to use, and so forth. Now, I mentioned that you want the sauce to absorb it all. Okay? So it's not done yet. Not even close. It has to be at the right temperature. You have to heat it up to the same temperature together. There you go. Now, see the colors? Now there's more sauce on that pasta. Do it again. Look at that pasta jump. It's jumping for joy. It's ready to get onto a plate. Well absorbed. Homemade. And now what we're going to do is we're going to plate it. Plating is definitely not my specialty. But the concept's there. I want to share it with you. Because I've done years of watching different cooking shows that got me through college. Food Network. Alright, so take this bun, get all this pasta together, and then just swirl it around a little bit. And then just plate it. There's one portion. Sprinkle it with some fresh cilantro. And there you have it. Add some red pepper flakes because it has to be spicy. It has to have a kick to it. Now, pasta has some sauce. There's some leftover sauce here. You can just drizzle some more sauce. And let's do it again here. Perfect. There we go. That one we can leave without the coriander. Okay, well, it's time to try, right, Irina?
Yes.
We can't try it without some good Georgian wine. So, in Georgian, you say cheers, kaumarjus. Kaumarjus.
Cheers.
Chin chin. Cheers.
So let's try.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta test it to make sure it's good.
Perfect.
Great. It's truly Georgian pasta. You can smell the Georgian flavors. You can feel the Georgian taste in it. We didn't make it that spicy. Georgian would be a little bit spicier. It's quite good. Very good.
Very good.
All right, great. You did a good job, right?
Yeah.
Till next episode, subscribe, chemo gemo, like, and share, and comment.